All right.
No, man, no worries.
Hey, guys, welcome back to another short episode of the Harbor Site. I got a very amazing man on the show, and something I saw in, I think it was on his social media. It was his 11 rules for his family, and it struck me, and I was like, yep, Matt, we have to talk to this. Now, how do you say your last name?
Dude, I have no idea. I say it's kind of like yours, dude. If anybody gets close, I just nod my head. So we say Beaudreau, and that's pretty it's California'd up, but we'll go with that.
So,
Yeah,
and you've actually have a long professional history in education, correct?
that is correct. Yep, and in all areas. So actually started at Stanford and working at Stanford for a long time, and then was a public school teacher, public school administrator, private school teacher, private school administrator. I've spoken to hundreds of thousands of educators around the world. So, which is why I left all that to start the schools that I start. So I knew the game.
So, oh man, I cannot wait to get you to North Carolina so that we can sit down and have a 3 hour talk about all of this.
Man, absolutely,
But
absolutely.
this will be a little teaser. So, what is your relationship with the Action Placer Academies?
So I own this campus. We actually have 3 campuses here in the Sacramento area. We'll probably have to open a few more. So I'm the owner of these 3 in particular, but I'm also part of the governance council for the entire Acton Academy network. There's about 250 of us right now globally. And being part of the governance council doesn't mean anything as far as pay or anything. It's just I get to serve more. So I help more good entrepreneurs come into the program.
Influence the
Influence.
future,
Yep.
yeah.
That's it. And look for more entrepreneurs.
Yeah, so for those that don't know what those academies are, can you give it in a wave tops of what that is?
Yeah. So the best way to describe it, people say, give me the 30-second pitch of these schools. And that's a hard sell because it's so far outside of people's realm of understanding of what school is. So the best thing I can say is we're not a school, we're a workplace for young people. And the ideal workplace for these young people is that they get to a point where they're running every aspect of the business itself along with their personal journey. So our ideal day means getting the adults out of the way, but not in a Lord of the Flies is now taking place kind of deal. It's in a these kids are now running this like a Fortune 500 company. So they're running their own path on an individual basis. They're working on Socratic conversations. They're learning how to think, not what to think. And they're taking on massive amounts of responsibility very, very early, including running the business of the campus.
So and these are all accredited schools to where a kid could graduate out of these.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So the paradox, for us is we have an accreditation, but we talk about the game of education where the accredited part doesn't matter as much as most people think it does, but we still have accreditation. We never focus on college as a goal by any stretch of the imagination. But the paradox is our kids will get into any college anytime they want. But they also have so many other opportunities available to them that a lot of them don't need. I mean, we've had students come out going, yeah, college, maybe I'll take a gap year, while my nonprofit that I've started while I'm in school is making 7 figures right now. So we'll see if college even matters. I mean, that's the reality of
I
the
like
stuff.
the whole thing where it says, I think you even shared it, that it's the fact that kids, and I say kids, young men and women can't get
Yep.
a business loan for 10K to start a business, but they can go in 6 figures in debt of student loans should tell you a lot.
It should tell you a lot. And the fact that most parents are cool with one but not cool with the other should tell you a lot too. Like that's the conditioning we've got, dude. It's
Right.
a school in its conventional sense, what we see in the government, which by the way, most private schools just model that too. It's a religion. It's really a
If my
religion.
kid said, I came and said, Dad, I have a business idea, I need 10K, I'd be stoked. I'd be
Absolutely.
like, let's talk about all of it. All
Yeah.
of it. Yeah.
Because again, what I said in that post, man, was like, you're not concerned about real learning. You're concerned about conformity because you're going to learn a ton from starting and trying to operate. That's part of the status quo for what we do at Acton Academy. 5 years old to 18 years old, you're going to either start a business every year or you're going to take your business into perpetuity every year, because that's real learning experience.
Well, I'm very interested in what you guys are doing, and so much that we'll have a conversation about how to, on the
Yeah, I
entrepreneur
can't
side,
wait,
how
man.
to
It'll be fun.
do that. Because
Yeah.
I'm very interested, and I think that these communities, these small area communities, they need that. They're
Mhm.
not, especially with my community, just not down with public school and the rules that they're in placing, and especially now more so than ever, right? And
Mhm.
I think it's time that almost every area has an option. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
If the parents don't align, if their morals and what they want for their kids don't align with the school that they're going to, they should have a choice.
They should. That's exact, and that's all, dude. That's all it is the choice, right? And people say, "Oh, you're so anti-pup." Yeah, I am anti that system. I'm very pro the teachers. I'm very pro the administrators. I'm very pro the choice to go where you want to go. Like, have the choice.
Yeah.
But people don't realize that there's a choice to be made, and they don't understand what they're choosing from. And that's what we've been shouting from the rooftops for
Yeah.
years, you know?
So I don't want to get down that rabbit hole because I feel like we can
Cool,
go
man.
for
Yeah.
3 hours, but
For sure we could.
the family rules, and I've got it right. I've got it pulled up right here. And so give me some history
Yes.
before we go into the rules. Give me some history about how you created them, when you established them, and the purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that we do, this relates directly to the schools that we run, is every studio on our campus, and studio just means group of similar age, but they're not at the exact same age, young people. They make a contract for their studio, and that contract that they design governs how they operate, and it gives them a very tangible thing to go back to continuously talk to each other. If I can go, Nick, man, the contract says rule number 7 here in our studio says this, you're doing this, that's clearly a violation. What can we do to help fix that? Right? It just gives them those tangible tools. So all we did was essentially transfer that to the house. Is so we as a family just went, cool, who are we? Like, what are our virtues? What are our values? Who do we want to be as human beings? Not just as a unit, but as human beings, right? You're special forces operator. There's a standard that's got to be met. You meet that standard, and then you all rally around that standard, and you hold each other accountable to that. That standard is non-negotiable, right? And you're a tight-knit unit because of that. Same thing. So we just went, cool, man. What do we as a family? What are the things we want? So I got input from my wife. I got input in from all 3 of my kids. I put in my 2 cents. We came up with, what we wanted to do to govern our family.
How long have these been standing?
We've had these for probably about, I'd say 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah. Did you see a change in the way that the family unit operated when you established these?
What's cool, man, is my wife and I were very intentional about how we parent anyways. So these were we were leading by example in these. I'd like to think, obviously we messed stuff up too, but we were leading by example already. So that was already kind of there, but putting that clear definition on it and having talking points around it, the biggest change that I saw was that now my kids, now that they had something specific, now they could call me out when I failed on one of these.
Because they're
And
like,
that
they're like, Dad, like,
that's right. Hey, Pops, remember how you got up? Yep. Remember how you called me out on this? Well, right now you're kind of complaining.
and it's
So
just,
what
it's
do you do in the
accountability.
big tech?
It's accountability on all sides,
Yep.
right? Yeah. I
That's
mean,
right.
so many times
So
I
that
think
was
so many
cool.
times I think parents are thinking about holding their children accountable, but where where are they on that? Who's going to hold them accountable? And I have I kind of have, I don't know if it's viral. It's a very controversial video that I put up about talking to a young man who's now in our family at his wedding about accountability and really just saying, like, making sure that you're doing the right things for the right reasons, and when things get tough, you don't do what so many men have done in the past. Like, you reach out and you use myself or someone as a lifeline when things get stressful. Because we know when you get married at 20, it's all rainbows and sunshine, and it's all love. It's all love in the air. But life starts to get a little harder. It starts to get a little more complicated. Careers and kids and whether she's going to stay at home or work and take care of the kids and everything. It does it. And for men, typically, if we don't have a good accountability network and a good network of education on how to process our emotions and how to deal with those kind of stressors, it comes out in the most negative ways.
That's right, man. And being and learning to be intentional about who those lifelines are matters, right? Who are the men that get to speak into your life? Being intentional about that. If it's is it a homie or is it a real man that you look up to, that you value their, like, the homie doesn't necessarily, I might have grown up with him and still loyal and respectful, and that's great, but he doesn't necessarily get to speak into my life.
Well, not just
right?
that, but it's like the individuals that are going to tell you the truth, the ones that, and even if it might hurt.
Yep.
And usually if it's something that you need to hear and it's truthful, it is going to hurt. It is going to sting. But that's
the story.
But that's the best. All right. So the rules. So the first one is be honest. We can just kind of break these down, and I'm going to put this up on the screen as well. But so awesome. Be honest. Who came up with that?
Yeah.
one?
So that was me. And so being honest, the way that I explain it to them, the way I explain it to the family is it's a multi-layered, which many of these are kind of multi-layered, but being honest, one, face value. Obviously we just don't lie, right? We don't lie to our kids. And that's one promise we've always made to them, is like, we will not lie to you. We don't even do the whole Santa Claus thing. You know why? That's a lie. There's no fat white haired dude that comes down the chimney. I'm not going to tell you that that's the case. And I'm not telling parents not to do that if they don't want to. That's great. I'm not going to lie.
That breaks my heart. That breaks my heart a little bit, Matt. I'm not going to lie.
That's okay. Sometimes, like you said, people need to speak the truth. So I'm just like, we're not going to lie to you. And when we set that boundary, they're not going to lie to us either. So there's that face value of, we're going to be honest, but we take it a layer deeper and say, one of the hardest things to do is to be honest with yourself. And so we're always encouraging everybody in the family to be honest with themselves too. And that's, as much as possible, we try to involve the conversation. Okay, cool. I'm going to try to detach as if I'm watching myself, but you guys can see me objectively better than I can see me. So tell me where I am missing the boat as a dad. Like, if I'm missing the boat, let me know where it is. Tell me where I'm missing the boat as a husband, and so it's being honest with each other, but it's also doing our best to be honest with ourselves on who we are and what our shortcomings are and what our, what our gifts are, what our genius is too.
The next one is be a copycat, and I have an idea of where this is going, but be a copycat down for me. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What's the rules?
So be a copy.
Yeah, the copycat thing is it's copying the patterns of success, the behaviors, the mentalities of those that have come before you in any arena that we know are positive and line up with our virtues and values, right? And it doesn't mean you're trying to be somebody else. It means there's a piece of you that connects to somebody in some way, which just means you already have that and you want to heighten that sense of it. And you are copying that specific part and learning how to integrate that into who you are. Alter Ego Effect by Todd Herman was a phenomenal book that ended up kind of mirroring that. We had him on with the Apogee boys not too long ago, and that explains it better than I would, but that's it. It's copying those patterns of success and behaviors that are going to lead to the outcomes that we want.
Because there is a pattern.
There's always a pattern.
There's a pattern. Yeah. I remember I wrote a short blog article about the six habits of successful people. And it wasn't like, I didn't even know about Arthur Covey's book. But these were things that are like not thoughts. These are actually daily habits, physical things that you can do. And when I first started my very first business, like most young entrepreneurs do, like you kind of spiral out of control. You're working 120 hours a week. You're not sleeping. You're not taking care of your fitness. It's just like all in all the time, no family, no nothing. This is the mission, and a lot of people subscribe to that. They're like, that's how it has to be. Well, to an extent, but there's a lot of tools, you can work really hard or you can work really efficient. And
that's right. Or you can do both of those.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Right.
If I go out and shoot, I can go to the park and shoot baskets all day and just walk, like that's great. But as soon as I get a coach and he starts to correct my form, it just expedites.
It compresses everything. Yeah.
Yep.
And so when I did that, I started struggling when I first stopped contracting, got out contracted, and started working on the business. I let myself slide a lot because I was so focused on that. And I was like, man, I'm like spiraling out. I'm smarter than this. So I started looking at the most successful people in the world, and I came up with this trend of they all kind of operate the same way. And that blog is out there. But yeah, that's it. And I was like, well, I just got to copy that. I got to copy that system. I got to copy that routine, and things will be more successful in it. And you know what? It worked. It worked. I got healthier. The business got healthier. I had more ideas. Now it didn't happen overnight. It was a timeline thing, but that set the road for, essentially everywhere I'm at today.
That's right. And it shortened that timeline.
It shortened the timeline. Right. All right. So cool. Be the hardest worker in the room. I absolutely love that one. What is that? Who came up with that, and what does that mean?
So that's something, one of my daughters brought that to the table because that's something that she pulled from what we talk about on campus. And I don't remember which daughter it was, to be honest. I just remember going, yes, because I knew she got it from campus. And that one's pretty self-explanatory, but, we talk about as a family is just being consistent, that the hardest thing to do around any kind of goal that you're setting is just to do it every day. Most things, accomplishing most things is relatively simple, but none of it's easy because you have to do it every day, and so that's really where we go with that.
I even see, and I think that there's I think there's a benefit to it. A lot of people strive away from competition, but I think that there's a certain level of competition that is very healthy for an individual. And when you can instill that, so even if you have two people, obviously, Tim and myself, I'm really big into jiu-jitsu, combat sports, right?
Yep.
You can have two people in there that are friends, but they will try to outwork each other, that only makes them better. And it's not necessarily a competition as it is. You are competing for who's going to work harder, and whoever works harder wins.
That's right. That's right. And it is a healthy thing. And it can go the other way too, where you don't even necessarily know the person, but then you have the competition and there's an immediate bond that's built there.
I'm friends with, I think, every single person I've competed against.
That's right. That's exactly right.
They're good people, man. They're good people.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
And it's bond in a weird way where you're trying to outwork each other, especially when it comes to combat sports. It's this weird thing where you bond. Again, it's something that compresses that time. Like you just bond so fast. I was talking about that in Mexico last week with Mickler, and I fought this guy who he and I didn't know each other coming into the fight, and we came in, and he's like he's a Mongol, right? So he's a biker, and he's a 1%er, and part of those Mongols, and they've questionable stuff that they do. Maybe, yep, great. He and I still stay in contact, man. And we didn't know each other. We got in the ring, we duked it out, we had at it, and we still stay connected. To this day, there's a bond there, and there's a respect there because we're both working.
When you get out here, we're gonna break into this so much. Each one of these topics is gonna be like 30-minute conversations.
That's awesome. Yep.
Nicest person in the room. Being kind costs $0, 0 cents. Go ahead. Nicest person in the room.
And where we dive in, because again, there's the face value of make sure you are serving other people there, you are being kind, you are treating people respectfully. The next level, that's the obvious part. The next level of that though is you can be that, I think you and I have talked about this before too. You can be that servant, you can be that gentleman, you can be that good person, but you also need to have the ability to be a savage so that you're choosing to be nice. And that's one of the distinctions we make too, is that you're choosing that because you have the ability to not be.
I was literally we were in the truck talking. I was talking to my wife, and I don't know. I'm sure you've studied personality profiles and how we're all very different. In the DISC profile, I'm a high D, and so a lot of times I can make people feel like rolled over on or bulldozed on. And or the concept of hey, listen, either speak faster or use less words, because I've got things to do. Just give me the wave tops and let's move on.
For sure.
And it's something that I've really strived to be and be super intentional is like if I'm talking to someone, I want them to feel like they're the most important person in the room.
Yeah.
And that's something that I have to work on because that goes against my personality type.
Your nature.
And it's not because I don't care, but I want people people will always remember how you made them feel.
Right.
You know, and
That's
that is super important. So trying to, working intentionally to be, the nicest person in the room is going to take you very, very far in life. And you can be direct and still be super nice and respectful. And people will remember that.
They do. Absolutely, man. When we were just down there in Mexico this last week, Beaudreau is a prime example of that. Because he can be a hard dude, and he's a brilliant entrepreneur. His mind's going a million miles an hour, but he's always very intentional about giving complete attention to whoever is speaking. And he's very intentional. We'd go out to eat, and he was very intentional about, hey, let me grab this, and I'm pouring water for everybody. And he's being the servant in the room too, right? He's very, very intentional about that. He's very smart about the way
it's effort. Yeah. And people think that like, hey, this is just who he is or this. No. Those people that are doing that, I mean, sure, there's some weirdos out there that just happen to be that way. But for the rest of everybody, no, that's work. That's effort. That's effort that's effort to serve, to do that and to be that person.
Bingo. And that's a more competent individual making that choice. I like that.
Now this one takes me back to like my Marine Corps days. No complaining, fix it. And we had a saying is don't bring up a problem unless you have a solution.
Bingo.
So is that kind of the basis for no complaining, fix it rule?
It's absolutely the basis. So there's no, Mom, Morgan's doing that. Mom, Brielle's doing this. Mom. What's your solution? What's your solution? What are you going to do? How do we fix that? How do you guys,
you just bother me to complain, or you've got something to offer here?
That's right. Or you have an idea. And so now they come and it's like, look, okay, so here's what happened. I asked this, I said this, the response was this. So at least, I mean, it's not like our kids never, ever, fight, because there's still some of that happens. But when they do come to us, it is, okay, here's where we're at. Here's where we started. This is where we've gone. Now we're stuck. Now we're not exactly sure where to go. And those are vastly different conversations. Those are vastly different conversations, but that's where they hold me accountable the most.
That's a good point to bring up, because I think a lot, and I was having one of our guys on, John Mark, was on the last podcast and talking about, he's got, he won our 30-day challenge last time, lost like 15 pounds and everything, but he's got a very large family, three boys and one girl, right? And man, they are just all on the same wavelength. Like you meet them and you're like, oh, this is a picture perfect family.
Yeah.
And people see that. But the reality is there's still struggles that go on. There's still bad behavior that goes on. Like nothing is ever perfect. It's all about work. And that's where I and the fact that you said like my kids, they still fight. These things still happen. It's just how it's handled on the back end.
Totally. And it's how consistent you are with all of these things we're talking about. Again, like goes back to that kind of the consistency of being the hardest worker. We establish these rules, these values, these virtues are something we hold every single day. We do not compromise on those, which is why it's gotten easier on this end.
Right.
Because we haven't compromised on it for, my oldest is coming up on 11. So that's a long tail game. And but it's made it so much easier because of that.
So I love this one because the last couple of years, man, I feel like this could be the motto for America.
Yeah.
Think most people won't.
That's right. So we talk to our kids about taking a look at all sides, wanting to understand all perspectives and why people have those various perspectives. Again, we don't have any desire to tell our kids to think like us, but we really want them to think. Take a look at all sides. look at evidence on all sides, and then come to your own conclusion, because most people will just side with emotion. Most people will just side with whoever's loudest in claiming authority. And it's a reactionary way to live. So the way we talk to them about it is, you want to live offensively, not defensively. We're not living in a reactionary bubble. We're going, okay, this happened. If it's something I can't control, cool, this happened. This is what's going on. This is what's happening in the world. Let's take a look. Do we subscribe to that? What do other people say about this? And then we make our own decision, and then we proceed accordingly, and we act according to our behaviors. You know, we control, it goes back to that kind of being an emotional ninja. We control our emotions so that they don't control us. But that has to start with thinking through who you want to be, what you want to do, what you want to believe, and then living according to that belief.
You opened up with one of the biggest statements that ties into that is, why are they saying what they're saying? Or why are they thinking what they? I think the why is the biggest thing. And in conjunction with that, I think parenting that says, because I said so, and they say, Dad, why am I doing this? Because I said so. That's just lazy.
That's right.
It's lazy. I mean, if one of my kids said, Dad, why is this the way it is? Or why do you want me to do this? And now that I'm, my age that I am now, I'm like, that's the opportunity to teach, to be a professor, to show them the reasons why you're doing something. And if you don't have a reason why you're telling them to do something, well, then why are they doing that? Why are you telling them to do that? Because everything has a reason. It has their safety, their education, their benefit, something, has
you got to be able to talk through that.
And you got to, because then once you do that, they're like, oh, this is important. Taking the trash out, there's a lot more to that than just taking the trash out.
That's exactly right. And we want them to, and school trains that out of people. Any big system, right? Medicine, big system of medicine trains that out of people. You're not allowed to ask the doctor, well, why do I have to do this? Why am I taking this? Why do I have to shoot this in me? Why do I have, you're not allowed to ask, because you don't question this. No,
because
just because I said so, because I'm the authority, right? Ridiculous. And most people will continue to live that way. We just won't.
Yeah. This goes along with, and we know where this came from, but it kind of goes with the Agoge as well. And what we do is discipline equals freedom.
Yep.
How did that make the list?
Yeah, that was definitely me, throwing that in there, and obviously the the Jocko influence on that. But I just love that. I love that statement coming out of education, especially because in education and in martial arts, where you're not real education, not school, you're not motivated to do. Motivation sucks, right? You're not motivated every day to do the things that you got to do. Motivation is just it sucks. You've got to have the discipline to do what you got to do anyways, and so we live on a little ranch, and we've got animals, and we got horses and all that kind of stuff, and so that's part. It's raining here in California today, and that's not a normal thing for us, but it's raining, and it's in the 40s or whatever it was this morning. My kids didn't want to get up and go put their stuff on and go feed horses and go do all that stuff this morning before they came to school and before they got breakfast. They didn't want to. So what? And so that transfers to everything else in their life. Like, I don't necessarily want to do this, but I need to. And so the discipline to do what you need to do.
Yeah, the discipline is our second pillar of the Agoge. And we realized that it had to be there because so many people rely on motivation. And motivation is a drug. It gives you a high, but it fades.
Yep.
But when you so what we do with them is we create a disciplined routine. And then that creates consistency, and we know that consistency is what gets results in life.
Bingo.
And motivation is not going to get you results.
That's right.
But discipline will, and that's the reason why that we kind of harp on that.
That's right. It's developing those habits. That's it.
I'm guessing this next one is you as well, Memento Mori.
Yeah.
That one is actually, you know what? That might have been my wife. So I got a buddy, Danny Vega, who has that actually tattooed on his arm. My wife knows him too. So I actually think she's the one that kind of brought that concept up. But then I think I just kind of named it as such, because the concept that we're, talking about is just perspective. We get to choose our perspective, and remembering that this ride is going to end for everybody. So even in the midst of all this crazy shit that's going on, it's like, whatever, cool, man. We're going to be happy anyways. We're choosing that because time's limited, man. And we want to use that as a motivational thing. I very early on, when kids were little, and if they were talking about like whatever, I just remember one time them complaining about something, and I was like, sweet, brought up my phone, brought up some pictures of some starving children, and just went, here you go, man. They're probably going to die today because they don't have, in fact, this is how many kids die every day because they don't have food.
Yeah.
Why you're complaining about what? And it's just this ends, man, and it's going to end for all of us.
Your first world problems. Yeah.
First world problems, man. So it's just perspective, and so we choose happy because, if we look at all of our problems, at least we don't have problems.
And I think that's what, I mean, it's such a simple lesson to teach, but very hard for them to get to understand is you get to choose. And you kind of said something like that about your emotions. I learned early on, as an adult, but years ago, I realized that if someone said something to me, or if they say something online, or they say whatever people are going to say things, they cut you off in traffic. If you react based off of that action, well, who's really in control?
They own you.
They own you. And that concept really bothered me. I'm like, I don't want to be controlled mentally by anyone. Right. So if something happens, I want to be able to take this, like, even if it's a half a second, go, how do I want to play this for my best interest?
Yeah.
Not just fly off the handle emotionally, because now they're in control of my brain.
That's right. That's right.
When you communicate that to someone in that way, it's like, whoa, I definitely don't want somebody in control. Right. But anytime you react hastily, or you get upset and you have an outburst or something, they are controlling you.
They're controlling you, and then you're losing your own perspective on your own life. And a lot of these concepts, and that one in particular too, people have said, wow, God, your kids can't really understand the gravity of the fact that this is your only life, and life is going to go quickly, and it's going to end, and that should not be a sad thing, but it should inform perspective. And so what if they can't fully understand it yet? We still talk about it, we still operate from that, and then it's a much easier thing for them to grasp when they're older, because guess what, most adults don't freaking operate by it and don't understand it. So if my kids are at least operating by it, I guarantee they're gonna understand this a whole lot quicker than other people.
Well, I think that's kind of a sellout too. I think,
hell yeah,
I think teenagers and children learn and take in way more than people give them credit for, and I think that's part of the problem.
Yep. And way earlier. Well, their brain's not fully developed. I know. Neither is yours if you're saying
listen,
that.
Listen, I'll tell you this. I've got 3 kids, 19, a 15, and a year and a half, essentially, old. And this kid has never seen, we have a lot of, like, I don't really use keys, right? My house is auto unlock, and when I pull up, it goes, I can push in a code or whatever. And we've done, this and that. Our cars now, you just push a button and get in and push the button and start the car. This kid gets a set of keys to a building and tries to stick. He's a year and a half, not even a year and a half old.
Yeah.
All he had to have seen this was once, and he figured out. He knows what those keys go to a door or to a car.
That's right. That's right.
Never taught him that. Never showed him that.
That's right.
He saw it.
Saw it once, put it together, and has it. So here's the thing that people, and again, this is part of that, I know we'll sit down and dive into this more someday, but the default nature of the natural human is genius, is brilliance.
Yeah, right.
That's the default.
Right.
We're the ones as society, with all of these cultural institutions that suppress and lower the bar, and then reinforce that the bar should be low, and this is where you go, and then we distract. We're the ones that mess all this shit up. That's the default.
Yep. And this kind of goes into the next one. You are personally responsible. I love that.
That's right.
I tell people all the time, just imagine everything is your fault.
That's it, right? Like that's it. That's just, if there is, if there is a bunch of toys on the ground at home, there's a bunch of Legos spilled on the ground. We all know it was my son who did it. There is no other culprit. Nobody else plays with Legos. But if those are sitting on the ground, that's all of our responsibilities to get them off the ground. And it doesn't mean that he's right. And by the way, that for us, that usually means, hey, Loudon, you got stuff on the ground, man. Go over there and go grab it. But we're going to be responsible for making sure it gets done, right? It's just because the standards that we hold are everybody's responsibility. It is always our fault. It doesn't matter. We always need to try to, and it goes back to finding that solution for everything.
Yeah, one of the things that I like to think about that it's like if everything is your responsibility, is, for instance, say you get in a fight with, like, I get in a fight with my wife, and she's the one that's wrong, which usually she is.
Yeah.
No,
dangerous ground. Dangerous ground.
But anyways, regardless of what it is, I look at it and go, okay, well, whether she was just mad and started a fight with me, it doesn't matter. I look at it and go, okay, how did I react and how did I handle that I could have created a more positive outcome,
right?
Regardless of whose fault it is.
Bingo.
How can I take responsibility and go, where's my responsibility in this situation, and what could I have done to make this a more positive outcome for us?
Bingo. And that's it. And that's how leaders think. And that's how a leader should think in his or her business. That's how leaders should think in his or her relationships. That's it. That's the only way to think in that, that's spot on.
And I think this is all kind of, the last one is kind of wrapped up in the same. The right thing is always the right thing.
We do not compromise. We just don't. I'm fine. We are all fine changing our minds on something if better evidence is presented. But until that evidence is presented, if we believe a thing, we act accordingly. And there are certain sets of values, virtues, rules, just basic human tenets of behavior that are always the right thing. And we're going to operate within that. And we are not going to compromise. If it is the right thing to do, then it is the right thing to do all the time. And we don't go the other way, no matter how hard that is.
Even if it causes you some personal discomfort or loss.
Makes no difference.
Yeah.
That makes
the right thing is the right thing.
The right thing is the right thing.
So Matt, if a family, if a unit, a team wanted to come up with their own rules, what would you tell them? What would be the instructions you would tell them of how to accomplish that?
Yeah. I mean, it's really a simple conversation, and those can switch over time, but it's the virtues and values that you either truly, that you subscribe to, or that are your ideal to subscribe to, right? People get caught up in the families that I talk to that balk on this. When we talk about this idea, it's usually, well, I know, being honest or whatever it is, I know that should be there, but you don't understand how it's gone in our past. I've definitely not done that. I've definitely not. So scrap that. What is the ideal? What is the optimized list of virtues and values? Who do you want to be? Write that down. Don't go, well, I've effed it up before. Write those down and start now. And identify as those now.
Right. It shouldn't be where you're at today. It should be what you're striving for. It should be out of reach. Yeah. It should be constantly out of reach. Right.
Totally.
Totally.
Yeah. You don't, this isn't a list that you baby step. You go right to the ideal, and then you baby step the process to try to get there, but you go right to the ideal.
Right. All right. Well, I think that's the lesson right there, man. If you guys out there doing it, listen, you are missing out if you're not following Matt and what he's doing with the Action Place for Academies, the Apogee program. Then you're missing out on some very good content that's going to help benefit you, not just you personally, but also you in the way that you interact with your family and your kids and even your employees and teammates. There's a lot of good information out there, and the people that you're having on, man, is just, I mean, wow. These kids that are getting this information from the people that you're bringing on is just, I mean, I hope that they realize the value that they're getting, because it is unprecedented. You know what I mean? It's
and you're amazing. A part of that. You're a part of that list, man, and I'm eternally grateful for that too.
I'm a huge fan, man. Every time I see that shirt you sent me, I'm like, this is I feel like I'm a part of that, and you know, and I think I bring it a lot. There's something about what you do that I've seen that gets brought up on almost every single podcast, because it resonates so strongly with me, and I will continue to be a part any way I can. But guys, go follow Matt. You're missing out if you're not, and then please screenshot this and share it on social media. Tag us, and we'll continue to get this message out to become the very best version of yourself and to make your unit the very best unit that it can be. Until then, we'll see you guys on the next episode.